Welcome to IT305 Active Web AWICE2. Today we'll be expanding on our form to control user input. So what are we doing? We're using 4 different tables. 3 of them will get input that we will then post to a 4th table right here. So we're getting from 3, posting to 4. 4 total tables being used to make one form. And so we'll start here with our default ASPX. Let's rename it to intramural form. Right click and pick rename. And we'll go ahead and save it too. And let's change the title to Cadet Plays Intramural Sport or form. And let's add in a subtitle right here on line 29, taking out the space in the paragraph, and we'll call it Cadet Plays Intramural Form. Add a couple of line breaks or hit enter a couple of times to give yourself some room to work. And we'll drag our form into this space right here. So let's go on to our right, drag form view, and of course we'll need an access data source. 1-to-1, one form view, one access data source. So let's go ahead and configure that data source. We'll go to our AWICE2.mdb, should be in the same folder. Open that up. And of course this tab changes the table we're using. So we're going to use the Cadet Plays Intramural. I have the asterisk checked so I don't need to check all the fields, and I always click Advanced as good practice. Right? Test query out, works fine, hit finish. Now we have to link that access data source to our form. So we use the arrow menu, we choose our data source, access data source 1. Alright, so it looks kind of weird. That's because we forgot to set our default mode in our tag properties. So let's change it from read only to insert, and let's center it as well. That's under our tag properties. You won't see the same thing unless your form is highlighted in green. Let's go ahead and set the horizontal alignment to left as well. And then what we're going to do is go to edit templates and insert item template, right? Never item template, insert item template. And that gives us our correct look. So we'll change, make everything human readable, right? Sport name, academic year. And then what we're going to do after this is we're going to control user input by making Cadet ID a drop-down box. So we're going to highlight that text field and we're going to hit delete on our keyboard to get rid of it. Remember, we're doing this in the insert item template. We're going to then close the data and look at standard. Under standard, we're going to look for a drop-down list. We're going to drag that drop-down list into right by Cadet ID, and then we need an access data source. So it should be a 1-to-1 thing. For every access data source we have, here's this access data source is for the whole table. Then we have one specifically from the drop-down box where we will get the information to populate the drop-down box. We configure it. But this time we're going to use a different table. We're going to use cadet names and IDs. Right? Cadet names and IDs, always hit advanced, generate, insert, update, delete statements. Next. Test it out. It's the information we want. Click finish. And then we need to link the data source to the field. So use the arrow menu on the field, and we're going to choose a data source. access data source 2. That's the one we link to, right? That's the one we just created, so that's the one we want to link to. So this says as display cadet name, but this says store cadet ID. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to look through this arrow menu. You should do every one of these controls. We've already done choose data source, we've already done configure data source. Right? Well, refresh schema just refreshes the data we have, but we didn't do edit data bindings. So let's go ahead and click on that. So this binds it back to our original table. Binds it back to access data source 1. Hit OK. Alright, so we did everything. Let's take a quick look at it. Let's preview it and see what we have. So when we preview it, we have the appropriate thing we wanted. We wanted names, and it's storing IDs in the background. But let's look at our arrow menu again. Did we do everything? We did edit data bindings. We did choose data source, configure data source, refresh schema. We haven't done edit items. Let's go ahead and do that. Edit items in this case is going to be used to give a default value. And we're going to give the default value select a soldier. So when you first look, like select a cadet, and when you first look at this, that's what you should see when you look at the drop down box. Let's go ahead and preview it. And it's not gonna work. Why is it not working? It's because we didn't hit one tag property. So click on the field and you'll see append data bound objects. If that is not set to true, you will not see the items that you placed in select the items that you placed in edit items. So let's take a look at it now. It should work. Select the cadet. Yes, it's working out. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and delete the sport name field and create a radio button list for that. So we go back to our data, make the radio button list, and we also need an access data source. So I should have, every time I drag something from the toolbox, I should have, it should have its own access data source. In this case we're using sport. We don't need to click all the items, but we always click on advanced, generate, insert, update, and delete statements out of good practice. We link the two together using the choose data source. And we make sure our appropriate data bindings are set. So this time we're going to bind it to the field it should go to. Sport name should go to sport name, right? We're going to edit items. In this case we don't need to because there's no kind of fields that we want to place in there. And let's click on enable auto close back. Do a drop down list for academic year using the same steps. And so remember, we need a access data source for every item that we drag down from the toolbox. In this case, we'll use academic year as our table that we grab information from. So that's the information we're grabbing from. And of course, you need to link it and put this information back in the appropriate field on our main table. Once again, put a default value, and won't forget to click append data bound items. If we don't click that, our default value won't show up. Alright, we're going to do a little something different for sport role. For sport role, we won't use an access data source because we're going to use a list that we've created. So we're going to go to edit data bindings to put it in the right place, your sport role. And then we're going to go choose edit items and add in our list. The first one is going to be our default value, select a role. And first, second, and third items are going to be coach, player, and referee. We did the edit data bindings, did choose data source, and clicked on enable auto close back. Let's go through one last time, make sure we did all the steps in the arrow menu, and if we did, our form should look good. So let's take a look at it. Hit preview. You can hit F12 for preview. But something's wrong, right? We forgot to do something. Our drop down boxes are working fine, but our radio button list isn't set up correctly. So let's click on that and let's change its repeat direction from vertical to horizontal. Click preview. We take a look at it and we should have a nice finished form. So we'll work on the report in part 2.